is basically an overview of the core skills, and then session 2 we look at the introduction to digital literacy, and session 3 is deep learning and introduction to CTPS. Today I'm working with Molly. I'm sure you have seen Molly in the last session, so I will be dealing with session 1 and session 2, and I'll be dealing with session 1 and session 3, and she will be dealing with session 2. And then next week, which is day 2, is 2 hours where we'll do session 4 up to session 6. And as usual, we will give you work to do before the training session and work that will post on your Google Classroom, meaning that right through you have to allocate 4 hours for reflections, where you look at the challenges and the successes that you have made. And please, guys, continue in the spirit that you were doing all your Google Classroom work. So let's continue on that. And then if you look at the learning outcomes, we have got 5 learning outcomes, which we think by the end of the the 6 sessions, you would have achieved exactly what we want to achieve. The first outcome basically is about raising awareness and deepening your understanding on the core skills and the competencies that are important for your learners. So we'll be looking at the core skills. What are the competencies that are required for each core skills? And then we'll start at looking at the strategies to help teachers to improve provision of the core skills. How do you implement core skills in your classroom? And then outcome number 3 will implement the teaching of core skills through planning of highly effective teaching approaches. By session 6, you will know exactly what approaches must be implemented in our classroom. And then session 4 will provide you the outcome number 4 will provide you with a range of tools that will support student learning, particularly in the developing of core skills. And then outcome number 5 is basically to introduce some appropriate tools to monitor and assess how well these core skills are being taught and supported in your school. So these are basically the 5 outcomes that we are looking at in the introduction to core skills. And then what are the overall objectives of the 6 sessions? Firstly, we want you to teach differently, to think differently about your teaching practices. We want you now to begin to think, to say what happened in the classroom matters. What you do in the classroom matters a lot. And we want our teaching to be learner-centered and to ensure that our learners are actively engaged in our classes. And then we want also the principals and senior teachers to play a supportive role in their schools and contribute effectively to the improvement of teaching and learning in the classroom. And most importantly, as teachers, we need to know what the learners are learning. So somehow we look at how to assess for learning, and we'll try to find out what to do rather than writing tests and examination. So we'll be trying different teaching methods, change our classroom practice, scaffold the learning of our students, work more cooperatively, and work towards quality teaching in the classroom. When you look at these objectives, ladies and gentlemen, it's what we have done in the past 3 weeks, where we're saying ultimately what should matter is what is actually happening in the classroom. And we need to basically be reminded that our learners are basically our main clients. So it's very, very critical and very important that whatever we do in our classroom must be learner-centered and learners must be engaged. And that requires a change of the methodology and a change of the strategies in terms of what we are doing in our classroom. And again, we understand that the focus in most education systems is on examination. We are saying despite that, let's try different methods where at the end of the day, when we release the learners, we are certain that they have achieved the core skills, which will be very, very useful in their careers and in education. I want to pause for a moment. When we announced during the course of the week that now we are going to be dealing with core skills, what did you expect? So what are your expectations, and what are you anxious about, and what are you excited about? So these are the three questions that I want you to respond, either by lifting of your hand or writing in your WhatsApp group. What are you expecting out of this course for 5 minutes? And what are you anxious about, and what are you excited about? 5 minutes. What are your expectations? What are you anxious about, and what are you excited about? The workshop is on core skills. Open up your cameras, guys. Open up cameras for a short while. Okay, there's Tyler there. I want to learn more on how I will teach core skills to learners. I would like to share all what is taught here to my colleagues in order to equip the learners with core skills. And there's Mpoza. I'm highly excited that at the end we'll have gained more ways of improving the learner core skills. I'm really looking forward to learning more ways of implementing core skills and to make the top apps of tools that will help in the implementation of these core skills, to be helped to implement the core skills in my classrooms. I'm happy to be made aware of the importance of core skills. So those are comments, those are expectations from the participants. They are still right. Yes, my dear.
Poka says, I'm expecting to know how best I can introduce core skills to my teachers and learners and monitor the progress. Nothing else, nothing much needed. I am not anxious at all. I'm happy because I will be equipped with the necessary skills needed to run the school and teaching as well.
Okay. And then there's another one in the WhatsApp group, being introduced to new methods of teaching that encourage learners to be more active in learning, to acquire different teaching techniques. And okay, that's exactly, ladies and gentlemen, we'll make it a point that by session 6, we have given you an overview of the core skills and the basics on how to implement them. And then after session 6, we'll go in depth on the core skills, okay? And if I can take you back to the teaching strategies that are used by the British Council, which we did in session 1, the very first session. So I'm not going to spend much time on them. It's appreciative inquiry. Remember, we said in appreciative inquiry, let's discover what is the best. Let's begin to dream what could change in our schools. Like you are saying now, you are looking forward to ensuring that you implement new teaching methodologies in your schools. Let's design, let's have action plans on how we're going to implement these core skills. And lastly, let's create and desire to implement. So we'll be following appreciative inquiry. So take everything that you are wishing for your schools here. Take all the best practices that we'll be sharing. And learning through the journaling, one of the things that we're going to be you are supposed to be doing as we continue with these workshops. Let's continue completing our journals. In your journals, write what has made an impact in you, and what has made sense, what are the wow moments, and what is still challenging. So in your journal, you write everything that matters to you. So your journal will assist you in thinking about your own thinking. And then the other strategy is community of practice. I won't say much on that because last week, the past 3 weeks, we were talking about partnership, where we're encouraging you to begin to work as communities of practice. And let me remind you that you have your own clusters in Lesotho. Please make it a point that those clusters work. The cluster leaders and everyone in those clusters must ensure that those clusters work. And again, the clusters that you are forming with your partners, they must also basically to work. So I'm not going to spend much time there, but to remind you that these strategies are very important because they are going to assist you to say, when I look back, I'm able to say, this is what I have covered so far, and this has made impact in my profession, and this has made impact in my learners. So appreciative inquiry, journaling, and community of practice are the strategies that must always come in handy in your profession, and you must implement right through, okay? Can you basically, for a moment, because we a journal in combine adjectives. New moment, write something on your whole moment in your classroom, whether it's the classroom that we had for the past 3 weeks. What can you say? I appreciate this. Let it go to my journal now. Okay, I'll give you 2 minutes for journaling. Whole moment in the sessions that we have had in the past 3 weeks. Something that made you think, whoa, I did a good job in the past 3 weeks or in your classroom for 3 minutes. Okay, that was an individual activity. It's your journal, and keep journaling as we continue in this workshop. Keep appreciating things that matter, that will make your dream to be realized. Okay. And then in terms of the 21st century skills, that is the core skills, the core skills basically ensure that we give our learners skills for living, skills for working, and ways of thinking, and also give you the key tools which are crucial, are basically digital literacy. So when you look at the skills for working, if you are to work with people, you need to be able to collaborate and communicate. And that is very critical. You know, sometimes we think communication and collaboration are easy things, but in reality, you find people who have been in the teaching space or who have been in the facilitation space unable to collaborate and unable to communicate. So as teachers, we have got a responsibility of ensuring that even at the lower grades, we develop our the learner collaboration and communication skills, because it really matters. Without those, you can't really work with people. And then we've got skills for living, and the skills for living basically ensure that we have got a responsibility to our world and ensure that we have got global citizenship responsibility. And this is very, very critical. The first and foremost, that if I'm a learned person, I need that skill for living. I need to be proud that I am a South African. On top of that, I need to be proud that I am a global citizen. Similarly for you guys in Lesotho, you need to take pride in your country, because that's the beginning of taking pride of being a global citizen. And you need to take civic responsibility. Hence, in session 1, we're looking at the Sustainable Development Goals, because we're trying to highlight that we have got civic responsibilities towards the SDG goals. And then another important thing that we need to ensure that our learners have is the way of thinking. One of the responsibilities as educators is to ensure that we impact on our learners the 21st century skills. We need to ensure that they are able to think critically at their level, they are able to solve problems at their levels, they are able to be creative and imagine and to have imagination. It doesn't matter which grade the child is in, even if a grade R, a grade 1, a grade 2 can be creative at that level. So when we talk core skills, we'll be ensuring that at the end of a grade, a learner has achieved particular critical skills for that grade, problem solving skill for that grade, creativity and imagination. Tool that we are going to be talking about, which is very, very crucial, is digital literacy. And you have seen that COVID-19 has accelerated the importance of that tool, because for the past 4 weeks, we have been relying on digital literacy in ensuring that we build the partnership. So it becomes very, very important that the core skills, the knowledge that we're going to be impacting and discussing in this session, basically be part of our classroom. Let's make it a point that whatever we gain in these sessions, we take it to our classrooms, okay? It's part of life skills. And fortunately, I had an opportunity of looking through the Lesotho curriculum, and I have seen that life skills is a critical subject in your system. And when you give your learners 21st century skills, basically, you are also saying knowledge is no longer power, but it is a fuel. It is an engine for deep learning. It is the driver is in you. So it becomes very, very critical that let's give our learners in all grades the 21st century skills, because that's the fuel that is going to assist them. And then what are the core skills that we are talking about that will ensure that there's deep learning in our schools? And there are 6 core skills which are basically interdependent and interconnected. And the 6 core skills are critical thinking and problem solving, creativity and imagination, citizenship, communication and collaboration, digital literacy, student leadership, and personal development. I am tempted at this point to look at what we did in the past 3 weeks to see how these core skills fit in terms of the partnerships. I will take the lessons that we have conducted in the past 3 weeks. We did the lesson on Introduction to International Partnership, maintaining and sustaining partnerships. And when we were doing sessions, we're looking at digital literacy, because we have conducted all the sessions online, we have shared information online, and we have seen how we can use digital literacy to reinforce learning, because after each and every session, we will give you tasks on the Google Classroom, so that ensure that you are able to use the digital literacy tools. The second thing that we encouraged in the past 3 weeks, we talked about communication and collaboration. You will remember we were communicating right through the session using Google Classroom, using WhatsApp, using group work, using individual work. We communicated in the past weeks using a number of strategies. And we have seen the importance of collaborating, because when we spoke about the partnership, we put more emphasis on how communication and collaboration are critical. Then we moved on to citizenship. And in terms of citizenship, one of the things that you were exposed in the past weeks was on global awareness. And global awareness made you to reflect on yourselves as the citizens of Lesotho, and at the same time reflect on the on your partnerships and understand them. And again, one of the things that we have said in the past weeks is, as Lesotho citizens, as Wales citizens, as South African citizens, at the end of it all, we are all global citizens. Hence, we have to have these 21st century skills. Hence, we need to understand the core skills, because they are preparing us for global citizenship. And then critical thinking and problem solving. The first task that we were given was to draw up an action plan. And when you draw up that action plan, you were looking at the SDGs, and some of you said, I will look at environment. Others said, I'll make education in terms of, I'll focus on education in terms of the SDG. That example was basically to ensure that you think critically about what you want to do for the country. And in the process, we looked at student leadership and personal development. So whilst we were looking at the topics that we're dealing with in the past 3 weeks, but you could see that there's a close relationship in terms of what we were doing in partnerships and the core skills, okay? And then this is just a puzzle. If you are a learned person, you need to have all those core skills, and it's a puzzle. And if you lose one of the puzzles, it will impact on you, and it will basically affect you big time, and it might affect you negatively. I can imagine when you have core skills and you say, I am a learned person, and you don't have digital literacy. How are you going to communicate now when we are forced to look on to use online? How are you going to research? How are you going to ensure that your learners have got projects in your school? If you lose that piece of a puzzle on critical thinking and problem solving, how then are you going to assist the country in terms of the SDGs? How are you going to be creative in your classroom? How are you going to be a creative learner if you lose? So all those puzzles are very, very important, because ultimately, as a learned person, as a person who possesses the 21st century skills, you need to ensure that you have all those pieces of the puzzle, because they are interdependent. Please don't lose any of the pieces. They are very, very critical, especially when we talk about learner development, when our focus is to ensure that our learners participate as global citizens. We need to have all the 6 pieces of the puzzle fitting together and fitting properly. Okay, any questions, guys? Can I pause for a question? Any question, raise your hand. If you have got a question, or write a comment on the WhatsApp group or in the chat group. 6 core skills. Any hand there? Molly?
Nothing on my side, says Voyo.
Okay, so people are clear of the 6 core skills that we are supposed to be covering. Those are the 6 core skills: CTPS, that is critical thinking and problem solving; creativity and imagination; digital literacy; collaboration and communication, citizenship, and student leadership and personal development.
Clement got her hand up, Boyo. Says Boyo. Clement.
Okay.
Good
Go
evening.
ahead,
Can
Clement.
you say it again on the? Can you say it again on the citizenship? I didn't get it clearly, please.
Okay. In terms of this of the citizenship, I was saying we all need basically to understand that we are global citizens. Okay. However, first and foremost, let's teach our children to appreciate and take their own countries, because if you take pride of Lesotho, if I take pride of South Africa, then that will enable me to appreciate what is actually happening in other countries. Okay, maybe to put it simplistic, for me to appreciate other people, I must first appreciate myself. So to appreciate other countries, I must appreciate my own country. And I need to understand that I'm a global citizen. Okay? And let's ensure that we put emphasis in our classroom on being global citizenship and taking pride in our own countries. Okay? Okay. If there's no other question in terms of the 6 critical core skills, let's move on. In terms of the current and the core skills, research papers for Lesotho, and I came out with the ultimate in education, and the ultimate in education is basically the outcomes, the critical outcomes for education. And the slide that is basically trying to link the aims of education and the core skills that I have just mentioned. For argument's sake, the first aim of any education system is for learners to be able to identify and solve problems and make decisions using critical and creative thinking. And then in terms of the core skills, that is covered by creativity and imagination, critical thinking, and problem solving. The second aim of education is that when you are a learned person, you need to basically be able to work effectively as individuals and with other members as a team. And in terms of connecting classrooms, in terms of the core skills, that's collaboration and communication. Another aim of education is organize and manage yourself and your activities responsibly and effectively. And the core skill there is student leadership and personal development. Learners must be able to collect, analyze, organize, and critically evaluate information. The core skill there is critical thinking and problem solving. Communicate effectively using visual and language skills in various modes, and that's digital and media literacy and communication. Core skills: use science and technology effectively and critically towards the environment and the health of others. That's creativity and imagination, digital literacy, and sustainability. And then the other one is demonstrate understanding of the world as a set of related systems by recognizing that problem-solving contexts do not exist in isolation. So in terms of the core skills, that's citizenship and being understanding that you are a global citizen, and that has been covered in the module that we have just done on global awareness. So when we talk core skills, we are not bringing anything new, but we are putting emphasis and trying to assist the different education system to realize their goals. Are we together, guys? Then if we're together, if you like this session, thumbs up. If you don't like this session, thumbs down. And if you found it challenging, have that picture. Can you basically do that in your WhatsApp?
Poka has given a thumbs up there. Vuyo. You got a thumbs up from Poka.
Okay, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Okay. Thumbs up, thumbs up. No, from Matelio, thumbs up. Then, if there are no questions, let me hand over to Molly to continue with session 2.
Got a thumbs up from Lerato as well.
Okay.
Thumbs up from Lerato as well. Labake as well. Hands. Mpoza, give you a thumbs up. Ntasani, you got many thumbs up there, Vuyo.
Okay. Thank you for the thumbs up, guys. Let me now hand over to Molly to basically continue with session 2.
Okay. So while you get the slides ready there, Vuyo, I just want to say hele, dumalang, and tell me if I'm saying this right. Kotsong. It's peace. So I'm going to be doing session 2. Thank you very much, Vuyo, for that. And thank you guys for all your thumbs up as well. Okay, are we ready? Okay, so firstly, can I ask, have you watched the video? So I'm going to ask Josias, did you watch the video? Clement, Mampo, Banda, Monkey, Julia, Lerato, did you watch the video? The Did You Know video? I would like to hear your voices, please.
Is the slide there, Molly?
No, it's coming still. So Mampo, can I hear from Mampo or Nsani? Nsani, did you watch the video, the Did You Know video? Oh, my sister.
Yes, I watched the video.
Great, well done, well done. Okay, so session 2 deals with context, change, and challenges in education. So Vuyo basically gave you an overview of what is the expectation, and then she outlined for you in some detail what were the 6 core skills. Okay, so we looked at the video in terms of context. Now we must understand what context is. Context in the global sense, what changes are happening globally, and what challenges these have for education. However, we must also look at this in the local sense, that means in terms of Lesotho. What does this mean for our context when we're looking at the video, right? We saw that we are preparing young people for jobs that don't really exist yet. We are solving problems and we don't even know what those problems are. We looked at how Facebook has expanded exponentially. We looked at Twitter, and we have to ask ourselves, what does this all mean? What is the implications for education? So the video was part of the homework, Kathy. We asked participants to look at the video on Google Classrooms. So we're not going to be playing the video in the interest of time, but we have asked participants to look at the video. I'm still waiting for the slides. Are you having difficulty, Vuyo?
I think so.
Okay, then you could stop sharing and I will share my video, my slides. I just wanted a smooth transition. That's why I didn't. Vuyo? Okay. Can I hear from you? What were your views? What did you think of the were you surprised by the video that you saw? Can I hear from Bereng? What did you think about the video? The Did You Know video?
Excuse me, I was cut off by the network. What was the question?
Oh, sorry. The question was, you watched the Did You Know video, and let me say, the Did You Know video, every year we have to download a new video, the Did You Know video, because each year it has to be updated. So after you looked at this video, were you surprised by anything that you saw on that video, on the Did You Know video? That is my question. Yes.
Yeah, I was, but I wasn't that much surprised because I have seen that things are changing. The manner in which we are doing things, the manner in which we are doing things the past years, and now things have changed. But I was surprised at the scale at which they have changed.
So what surprised you?
Raskis, come again?
What was it that surprised you?
The scale in which the technology has developed, like the things they said, the things that we are teaching the students in school, probably when they go out of school, they won't be needing those skills that we have given them. The use of technology, the use of the YouTubes and whatever. So that was something that I didn't think scale. I thought it was on a smaller scale.
Great. Thank you for that. So I want to affirm you, and I know in Lesotho for hello you say helele, and so in South Africa when we say congratulations, and now on the African continent we use the word halala to say thank you and to say congratulations and good. So can I give you a halala? Can everybody give you a halala, please? Halala. Halala.
Halala.
Brilliant.
Halala.
Thank you. So can I have some views? Thank you. Can I have some comments from other participants in terms of how do you think the world has changed in the last 10 years? How do you think the world has changed in 10 years? How has the world changed in the last 10 years? How has the world changed in the last 10 years? I'm going to give you 5 minutes to think about that. And what are the implications for young people in the 21st century? How has the world changed, right? And yeah, why do you think the core skills are important as a 21st century skills? I want you to think that. I'll give you 5 minutes. Truly, you'll give me some video, some music, and I'll give you 5 minutes to think about that. So I'm typing it.
5 minutes is up, Molly.
Okay. Lovely responses coming through in terms of there's a rapid change, especially in terms of information is at the tip of at your fingertips, and within seconds. For example, I'm speaking here in South Africa, and you can hear me speaking right there in Lesotho, and it's moving at an exponential rate. And smartphones can help us to communicate easy and reach the world, right? So, and then we said there's a huge change in the world for the last 10 years. This is due to technology. For example, if you look at bank tellers are becoming almost obsolete, right? So if we are saying that we are preparing young people for jobs that do not exist, the question now becomes, why do you think core skills are vital? The question is up on your on your slide. Vital for young people to learn if they want to be successful in the 21st century. So why is this so critical? Why is this important? That's what we want to get to. And I like listening to voices, and you can use the chat box as well. Things are changing, then we have to ask ourselves, are things changing in our workplace as custodians of education? Has things changed at an education level, primary education, secondary education? Are we preparing young people with these 21st century skills? What is your response to that? Julia, how do you respond to that? What do you think we need to do differently, Julia? You can also write in the chat box or on the WhatsApp. I like bouncing. Banda, Reng, I haven't heard your voices. Let me hear your voices. Makabelo, are you there? Makabelo?
Hello.
Yes. Go on, I'm listening. Go on.
Can you repeat your question?
My question is, do you think we are preparing young people? Let's look at your context in Lesotho to live and work and thrive in the 21st century.
I think we don't, because when you look at these core skills, the core skills in the little, but if we can at least give them what would be in the literal, the digital
Literacy, yes.
and then they will be able to.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Tabelo. Thank you for that. Halala. Halala to you.
Halala.
And Insani, halala. And Insani says they will be able to face the world and respond positively towards the challenges they meet, right? So that's what Insani had to say. So thank you for that. Thank you for your responses. As we can see that digital literacy is a course that is so critical because a lot of the other skills rely on that. So remember, young people are going to be working in a globally interconnected world. In order to do this, young people working will be in Lesotho, somebody will be in South Africa, somebody will be abroad, and they will be using digital literacy and they will be communicating with each other. So therefore, we need to understand what is digital literacy. We hear about financial literacy. We hear about health literacy. So we need to think about what does digital literacy actually mean. So we will go to the next slide. Right, let's go to the next slide. And Vuyo has already done, okay? And the point of the slide is to show that all the core skills are interdependent. Let me put it this way. In school, we want to teach young people that the world is a set of interrelated ideas. However, we cannot teach all subjects together. So we teach history, geography, science as different subjects. But at the same time, learners need to realize that these subjects are interrelated. Just like that, the core skills are interdependent. They are not standalone. Critical thinking and problem solving without teaching communication and collaboration. So the point we want to make is that these core skills are interdependent. So I wouldn't talk more on the core skill, the puzzle, because I think you understand that. So we're going to go to the next one is, what do you think is digital literacy? What is digital literacy? That is my question. What is your understanding of digital literacy? We talk about financial literacy, we talk about health literacy, we talk about a lot of literacies, we talk about visual literacy. What is your understanding of digital literacy as a core skill? So you can unmute your mics and you can respond. You can respond on the chat or you can respond on WhatsApp. So as you can see, we are using digital medium to respond. Yes, you know I like pouncing. So I haven't heard Kebongile. I haven't heard her voice. And I haven't heard from Moholi as well. So what is your understanding of digital literacy? Yes, Mampo?
Hello, Mayor.
Yes, go on.
Okay. I think when we talk of the digital literacy, we talk of dealing with technology in terms of the use of the smartphones, the computers, in order to connect people to work together, even if they are not together at the same place. That's what I understand about the digital literacy. Having that information or skill or the knowledge on how to use anything related to, I can say anything related to technology in terms of internet that is able to connect people globally or in a community or can either be the school or any institution.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was well done. Halala to you. Well done. So the important words are the use of technology. You spoke about collaborating, and that's what it's all about. It's about collaborating at a local level. The school is an ecosystem. The school and the community is an ecosystem. How do we collaborate? And then how do we communicate on a global scale, right? And how can we make young learners, young people benefit to discover and master and communicate knowledge and information in a globalized society? So you're on point. Insani says the ability to use communication and transmit information. Yes, to transmit information, yes, right? So when we're transmitting that, that's communication. And do we have any other responses there, Vuyo, on the chat? Can you help me out with the chat?
No, I can't see the chat because I've got your slides.
No, and on the phone chat, WhatsApp, having a basic knowledge of how to use technology. Yes, nobody is asking you to be Bill Gates, and so that's what it means. It's having a basic knowledge. It's not about having an in-depth knowledge and how to be designing programs, and that's not what it's required of you, but having a basic understanding. So I think you're on point. That's what digital literacy is all about. Now, let us look in terms of digital literacy. So I just want to, I'm going to read it. Digital literacy is using technology as a tool to reinforce, extend, and deepen learning through international collaboration, enabling the student to discover, master, and communicate knowledge and information in a globalized economy. So that's what we're ultimately preparing young people for. So the most important terminology being collaboration, deepen learning, and we're going to learn more about this. Discovery, it's not about learners being empty vessels. We say tabula rasa, no, where we fill them with information, no. It's about them. It's about a journey of discovery, right? It is project-based learning. Remember, you're going to be working with projects. So how learners go about discovering together, learning collaboratively. And Lesotho is in a very privileged position because you have a partnership other schools don't have. So learners get to work with a global community, and they learn to use these skills. Now, I want to do a temperature check, okay? And my temperature check is this. On a scale of 1 to 10, using this definition, I want you to assess where do you think you are in terms of this definition of digital literacy, 1 to 10. Then I want you to assess or evaluate where do you think your school is in terms of digital literacy in terms of this definition. So to rephrase my question, on a scale of 1 to 10, in terms of this definition of digital literacy, where are you on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the best that you have all of this, and where are the young people or the learners in your school? So when you are responding, you'll say me, and then you'll say my school. My school means the learners. So I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to do this. 2 minutes. Music, please.
teachers may
Right.
Holly,
Thank you.
in the
Yes.
WhatsApp, there's my fellow says me at 8, my school at 2. There's
Yes,
still,
I can see that. Thank
can
you,
see
I
that.
got it. Yeah, me 6 students. So can you see a pattern there? The pattern is that teachers have rated themselves higher than the learners. So clearly we call that there's a gap, and the question now becomes, how do we plug that hole? That is the question. So in terms of the school, so clearly there is a gap. Now I'm going to move to the next slide. Okay, and so we have to think now. We need a shift needs to happen. How do we bring our learners to where we are? So let us look at the elements of digital literacy, right? If we want to bring about change, let us look at the elements. So at the very center, we have collaborate in education, community, and workplace. That's right at the center of learning, or at the very core, right? We have that. Then let us look at the other elements. Can we have all the other elements? Being safe in a digital environment, find, evaluate, and apply information, use digital tools, hardware and software, understand social responsibility, showcase awareness and management of digital identity. Now that's quite a mouthful. So here's a challenge for you. Look at all these elements and ask yourself, which one is most important, do you think, for your school? Which of these elements are most important for your school, seeing that you have ranked your school so low? And by digital literacy, we mean those capabilities which fit an individual for living, learning, and working in a digital society. So just a quick minute, look at these elements of digital literacy and ask yourself, which one do you think will be most important for your young people? I'll give you a minute for that as well. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So, which do you think will be most important for your school? So I'm getting responses here. Which one of these elements will be important for our learners? Which would you like? Collaborate in education and workplace, okay? Let's wait for some other responses to come through. Mankey, what do you think, Mankey? Hi, Mankey, what do you think? Nsani says collaborate in education and the workplace. He will put that right up there. Nsani, can you please tell us why, very quickly? Why do you think that is important? Sani?
Oh, I think as teachers and
Sani.
the community, we should work together so as to improve the learner's ability to manipulate the technology.
Yes, the ability to use the technology. Now, digital literacy, use digital tools, hardware and software. So as you can see, different people are latching on to different elements. But what needs to happen? Let me give you a quick example, okay? So Tabo wanted a cell phone. He's 12 years old. He wanted a cell phone, so his father bought him a cell phone, okay? And after that, Tabo was hardly seen. But Tabo is 12 years old, yet his father won't give him a car to drive, saying that he needs to understand that the car is an important machine and he needs to know how to use it. It's a machine, how to use it, and what are the benefits and what are the dangers of using a car. Yet Tabo's father didn't worry about the benefits and the dangers of using a cell phone, using technology. So the point is, before allowing young people to use digital devices, they need to understand. So not one, I just asked that question, but no single one is important, all are equally important. But before we introduce young people to technology and use it to collaborate, be it on a local or a global scale, we need them to become, we call it e-safety. And what is e-safety? E-safety is about teaching young people to be safe in a digital environment, especially for people like you have stalkers. So they need to know this. So just like we don't allow them to just go and drive a car when they are 12 years old and 5 years old, we need to teach them e-safety. We need to, we know Facebook got into a lot of trouble because people's identities were compromised. And we know about the POPI Act, right? Protection of Personal Information, that is a POPI Act. Learners need to know how to be safe and how to comport themselves, even in social media. What are the do's? What are the don'ts? How do they conduct themselves? When they are looking for information, what information is valid, considered valid or credible? What information is considered to be grey literature? So they need to find, evaluate, and apply this information using the core skills. And they need to, I spoke about social responsibility, the do's and don'ts, how to showcase their achievement. For example, in the LinkedIn platform, for example, in the professional partnership platform, when they're doing the projects, they can use digital platforms to showcase their achievement. So you can see digital literacy has a lot of elements to it. So young people need to be aware of it. And as custodians of education, it is our responsibility to first teach them about that. What are the benefits of it? What are the dangers of using online platforms and digital devices? So going to the next slide, we look at, we already pointed out that it's the core skills are interdependent. We can see the critical importance of using digital literacy and their interdependent nature. They work collaboratively, cooperatively, and we are living in a world that's increasingly becoming interconnected. What happens in China affects us. What happens in the US affects us. What happens in South Africa affects Lesotho. What happens in Lesotho affects South Africa. So we need to start seeing the world. The young people need to start seeing the world as a globally interconnected place. So I'm moving on to the last slide because I'm now coming to the end of this presentation in terms of digital literacy. Let's go to the last slide. I used to think that core skills were, now I think that core skills are. Yes, I can see awareness of management of digital identity, very critical, use of digital tools. And as a concluding questions, I want you to respond. This is just a reflection. I want you to respond to this question. I used to think that core skills were, now I think core skills are. Can you complete that, please? Buyo, as the participants are responding, you can go to your slide. Just wait for them to respond. Okay, thank you so much. Right. So I used to think core skills were, I now think core skills are. What is your response to that? I think core skills were not so important. I think core skills are important and need to be well planned and implemented. Excellent point. And where does that planning come? That planning comes in your lesson plans, which will be explored a little bit later on. And I just want to conclude by saying, by opening a challenge to you. You know, Alvin Toffler said the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read or write. It'll be those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So my question to you is, what is it that you need to unlearn, relearn, and learn with regards to digital literacy, and how we're going to embed digital literacy in terms of the curriculum? So that's a thought I would like to leave you with. I think core skills were not so important. I think, right, yes, I read that. I used to think that core skills were important and far-fetched and be applied in private-owned schools. Now I see that there must be, in order to deal with day-to-day experiences and challenges. Absolutely, absolutely be on the right track. Halala to everybody, halala. And thank you for your brilliant responses. Halala. Can I hear halala? Halala. Well done. Thank you. I'll respond to your chats. Over to you, Vuyo. Thank you, everybody. Dumelang for now. And song.
Is my slide up?
Yes, they are.
Okay. Thank you, Molly, for that interesting session. I'm sure there's work waiting for them in the Google Classroom for that, which will be posted this evening, because we want them to basically start implementing that core skills in their classrooms and in their interaction. Then in the interest of time, let us move on to session 3. And session 3 is covering critical thinking and problem solving. Remember, this is one of the core skills that you need to okay. I want you basically in your groups, in the WhatsApp chat, not in your groups, in your WhatsApp chat, tell me what words come into your mind when we talk about critical thinking and problem solving. What words come to your mind when we talk about critical thinking and problem solving? Can you quickly do that for 3 minutes? What words come into your minds when we talk about critical thinking and problem solving? 3 minutes for that. What comes into your mind when you talk about critical thinking and problem solving? Okay, there's Limpo. You are talking about decision making. You are talking about identified problems. We are talking about objectivity. What words? Thinking hard, overcoming obstacles, finding and scrutinizing information, evaluation of an issue to make judgment. Thinking beyond the limits, finding solution, making informed decisions, problem solves, how to approach and handle the situation. Okay. Thanks, Julie. Thanks, Julie. And the words that you have given on the WhatsApp are basically talk to critical thinking and problem solving. These are the things that we need to ensure that they take place in our classrooms. Let's ensure that learners are thinking hard. Let's ensure that they the information. Let's ensure that they solve a problem. Let's ensure that they are informed decision. And if you look at the definition that is on your slides there, it starts by defining critical thinking and problem solving. And the words that you have written are evident in that definition. Critical thinking is self-directed thinking. It's about producing new and innovative ideas. It's about solving problems, which you have seen there. It's about reflecting critically on learning experiences and making effective decisions. You can see those words that you have mentioned: solving problem, objectivity, critically evaluating your experiencing, critically evaluating the processes and making effective decision. So that's critical thinking. And problem solving is when you want a solution, as you have said. Whenever you have a goal which is blocked, somebody said in the WhatsApp, overcoming blockages. If you have got a problem with a lack of resources, lack of information, and so on, you have a problem. And whatever you do in order to achieve your goal is problem solving. If basically I can take the question that Molly asked in the previous session, she asked, rate yourself at a scale of 1 to 10 on digital literacy. And teachers rated themselves at 8, and they rated their learners and their schools at 3 and at 0. Already you can see that there's a problem there. It might be because of lack of resources or the lack of time or whatever. And that's a problem that needs to be sorted out, especially somebody, when you reported last week, you mentioned that one of the things that MOET, that is your Ministry of Education in Lesotho, is trying to ensure that at foundation level, learners are provided with computers. If I heard you correctly last week, I think I heard you last week. So let's understand that definition, critical thinking, and problem solving. When we move on in depth, we'll go back to this definition. And what makes critical thinking? Okay, you have already mentioned this. One, it must be effective, meaning that you will need to avoid making mistakes such as seeing one side of an issue. You need basically to research and to research and to research. And by the way, the reason we have digital literacy, it is because one of the things that we need to do at our schools is to encourage research. And as Molly has said, let's start on project-based activities, okay? So that learners basically are able to reason, you know, because they have got new evidence. And then another thing is it must be novel. You don't simply remember a solution or a situation that is similar enough to guide you. You need to be able to think. Somebody said you need to be able to think out of the box, which when I summarize what was said here, out of the box critical thinking, I think it was Molly. He was putting emphasis on what Mpoza has said, because Mpoza said whatever you think must basically be beyond limit. Think outside the box. And then it must be self-directed, meaning that we need to encourage our learners basically to think independently without being influenced or directed by the teacher. So in our classrooms, we need to ensure that the activities that we give to our learners encourage critical thinking and encourage problem solving, meaning that we need to have activities that will encourage learners to think independently, to think out of the box, to be able to work on their own, okay? And then whenever you think about problem solving, you can see that when you talk about critical thinking, it is a subset of problem solving. For you to be able to solve the problems, you must be a critical thinker. For you to be able to reason, you must think critically. For you to be able to make decisions, you must think critically. If I can take you back to the activity on SDGs, when you were making an action plan, what was required there was for you to critically think about Lesotho and basically say, what problem do I want to assist in? And it required you to reason, and basically you came to a decision that out of all these SDGs, this is the one that I want to zoom in. So critical thinking is a subset. It requires you to solve problems. If you have never solved problems, then you're not a critical thinker. If you are lazy to reason, then you are not a critical thinker. If you can't make decisions, you rely on other people, then you are not a critical thinker. So we have got a task to ensure that our learners are able to solve problems, they're able to reason, and they're able to make decisions at their level. And there are 4 features of critical thinking that we need basically to impact on our learners. These are the skills that the learners must have when they have been exposed to critical thinking and problem solving. They need to be able to consider perspectives. They need to be able to evaluate evidence, and they need to solve non-routine problems, and they need to look at deep structures. If I can give you just a simple activity on considering perspective, for a minute, write on a paper, write the number 3. Write the number 3 on a paper. Have you written that number 3? Mpoza? Hi, Mpoza. Hi, Mpoza.
Hello, me.
You have written the number 3 on your paper?
Not yet, me. I'm still writing it.
Write 3, the number 3.
I am, me.
Okay.
Okay.
Have you written it?
I am, me.
Turn it upside down. What are you seeing?
I see it's W.
Turn it again. What do you see?
I see E.
You
E.
see?
E. E. A, B, C, D, E.
You see E. Turn it again.
Yes, may I see M?
M. And this is what we're supposed, it's a simple activity. So one of the things we need basically to teach, to give the learners that skill of looking at an issue from different angles. It was 3, but from another angle, it ended up being a W, it ended up being an M, it ended up being the number E, and so on and so on. Okay, that's one skill that we need to impart on the learner. We need them to be able to evaluate evidence. One of you in the previous activity said one of the things that you use digital literacy is for research, so that they get as much information as possible. And when they have received the information, they start evaluating. In your own words, you said you use digital literacy so that you can make judgments, meaning that one of the things that is required from learners is to access different sources of information, evaluate that information, and then come up to a conclusion. For instance, we are in the COVID period. A number of things have been said about cures of COVID, and you don't take those at face value. We need to encourage research, and see basically what works at the end. And then solve non-routine problems. When you solve non-routine problem, this is something you can do in a class when you say to your learners, stand up and talk about an unprepared topic, during your oral task. And then the last one is basically look for deep structures. And when you look for deep structures, I started thinking about your own country, and when I looked at the rate of unemployment, I said a lot needs to be done in Lesotho. And then in terms of deep structures, I had a question at the back of my mind. How do you improve the economy of Lesotho? And I asked myself, can't we use the beauty of the country? What about tourism in the country? And so on and so on. So look for deeper structure. Continue asking that why, until you get deeper and deeper and deeper. So these 4 features are the 4 skills that learners must ultimately have. They must be able to consider perspective, evaluate evidence, solve non-routine problems, and look for deep structures. And for them to be able to do this, it takes us to the Bloom's taxonomy. You can see the Bloom's taxonomy in that slide, which has been turned upside down. And you see the lower skills are basically remember and understand. Those are at the lower skills. And we ask the questions, can you remember? What is the definition of so and so? What is the definition of critical thinking and problem solving? That's a lower level question. That's a surface question. And we need to move the learners to higher order thinking, to be able to apply, to be able to analyze, to be able to evaluate, and to be able to create. The beauty of education is when the learners are able to remember, to understand, to apply, to analyze, to evaluate, and basically to create. If learners are able to do that, then we understand that they are able to understand the core skills on critical thinking and problem solving. But if we fall short, we only focus in our classrooms on remembering and on understanding, then there's a problem, because the learners that we're going to produce there are not going in terms of global citizenship. Remember, again, again in this scenario, I thought about Lesotho, and as I was thinking about Lesotho, I said the beauty of Lesotho, whenever you go to the website and you start looking at your country, you find out your country has got 3 levels. Level 1 is the lowland, level 2 is the foothill, and level 3 is the mountain of Lesotho. And everybody who has been to Lesotho talks about the foothills, talks about the mountains of Lesotho. And if I can compare of Lesotho with the Bloom's taxonomy, it basically says to me, the remembering and the understanding is basically when you are at the lowland of Lesotho. And in the lowland, the grazing place for your animals has basically been used. And then in the apply, it's then that you begin to see that beauty of Lesotho when you look at those foothills running across the country. And the last one is when you see the real mountains of Lesotho. So if we want our learners to fit in the 21st century, let them arrive at that stage where we say you are at the highest order of thinking. You are like at the mountains of Lesotho when you are able to analyze, evaluate, and create. So guys, when I go to Lesotho, please don't keep me in the lowland. Take me to the foothill and ultimately take me to the mountains of Lesotho. And when I go out, when I leave that country, having been exposed to that, to all those levels, I'll basically see and appreciate the beauty of your country. This is what we're supposed to do to our learners. Let's not stop at remembering and understanding. Let's ensure that we take our learners to their highest level, which is analyze, evaluate, and create. Okay? Are we together, guys? Then, because learners cannot think critically on their own, learners cannot have these 4 skills without us. Learners cannot enjoy Bloom's taxonomy without the teachers. It becomes then very, very critical that as educators, we use questions effectively for the learners to understand and enjoy all the levels of the Bloom's taxonomy, and for them to be able to have those skills in those 4 quadrants. Educators must ask the learners questions, and questions that are challenging, questions that are going to make the learners to think critically, questions that are going to make them reason, questions that are going to make them take decisions. Okay, so let's ask our students right questions that will enable them to access and evaluate the information. Okay, in your group, I want now to look at the following picture, and then you begin, you write 2 questions about the picture that you are seeing there. You've got a picture there on the slide. Look at that picture. Ask 2 questions based on that picture. Time is a challenge. Just 2 minutes for those questions. There's one question. What do you think the girl is doing? Why does she straighten her arms? I've got from Lekanye. Which traditional activity took place? There's a Limpo. Suggest ways in which the girl may use dancing to improve her standard of living. How is the girl making money? And where is the girl? What is happening here and what kind of dance is this? Okay, these are some of the questions. I will stop there in the interest of time. But one of the things that we need to understand is when we ask questions, there are two types of questions. Closed questions. Closed questions are basically questions that require one answer or two answers, or they require a yes or a no. And they are factual and just focus on the correct response. And open questions, answers depending on the depth of the student's thinking. It's very important as educators and as teachers that when we ask questions, we understand that there are closed questions that have got one answer or a yes or a no, and there are open questions that have a variety of answers. And open questions always encourage the learners to think deeper about what they are, about their answers and about their questions. In essence, when you talk about open questions will basically require you to think deeper about the topic, and open questions basically are closer to the higher order questions. They encourage deep learning, and more often than not, most of the closed questions, they basically encourage surface learning. I would leave this, I'm not going to debrief it purposefully. I want you to take the questions that you are having, those that have not submitted the questions on the WhatsApp, look at that picture again, ask questions, and then categorize those questions that you have asked as being closed or as being open or as asking surface question or as asking deeper questions. Surface questions are those that are at the lower levels of the Bloom's taxonomy, and higher order questions are those that are at higher order questions. Okay, allow me to leave this at this point and give you you finish that as homework, and we'll debrief it next week because it is a very, very critical question that is going to ensure that as teachers we ask questions that will ensure that the learners are critical thinkers, learners are able to consider different perspectives, learners are able to basically evaluate evidence, they're able to think deeper about what is in front of them. Okay? And I like the two definitions by Westbrook, because they put emphasis in terms about the most effective teaching practice. When you are effective as an educator, you ask a variety of questions. You know, you draw on students' background, and your questions will range from lower order to higher order. Your questions will be closed. Your questions at times will want the learners to recall questions to higher order. Open questions with feedback that is embedded through elaboration, rephrasing, and probing. So in our classrooms, let's ensure that there are open questions, there's feedback, you probe your learners, you make them elaborate. If they have not understood a particular question, then as an educator or as a teacher, you've got a responsibility of rephrasing. Okay, this is an effective practice by the teachers. And then in less effective practices, the teacher basically rarely rephrase, rarely elaborates, rarely prose. He just basically say, let us clap. And you would understand because the methodology that we have followed in these webinars is that after each and every session, you will have a post-workshop activities, and then we look at those, we probe you on those, we elaborate on those, we rephrase those, and then we congratulate you. So the system that basically we have been following of looking at your submissions, reflecting on those submissions, was basically to ensure that we encourage you to look at the different perspective, was basically to ensure that we check your understanding, and was basically to ensure that we check your learning. If you don't have that space in your classroom, then you are not certain that your learners have achieved the core skill on critical thinking and problem solving. Okay, always have questions that will make your learners to think deeper about what they are doing. Ensure that they reason and ensure that they basically look for work, research the work, and that brings me to the end of this session. I'm saying end, but it's not end, in that there are activities that I am going to post in the Google Classroom, where basically the first one, you will finish up that poster where you ask questions, and thereafter you categorize those questions on the basis of whether they are open or closed. And then the second thing, I will ask you to look at your learner workbooks that you have of the work that you have done from January up until March, pre-COVID, and then you look at those questions, you also analyze them, and then that's about all that I'll post on the Google Classroom. Okay, then there's one activity before we close, which I am going to post on the WhatsApp group. I want you to look at that activity, respond to it in the next 5 minutes. Look at that activity that is in your WhatsApp group. There are 9 questions there, because questioning is critical for critical thinking and problem solving. Questioning is also critical in terms of Bloom's taxonomy, and questioning is a skill that is important for educators, which will enable the learners to have all the features of CTPS. Can you, for 5 minutes, respond on those, reflect on yourselves on those questions that are posted in your WhatsApp group? 5 minutes. Okay, thanks for that, and thanks for the responses. I can see that most have said yes, and the others have said no, where there's a no, and sometimes. However, the essence of this activity was to say, whenever you are planning a lesson, you must prepare your questions and ensure that your questions are in line with the Bloom's taxonomy. Ensure that your questions will basically encourage your learners to achieve the 4 skills that are required from them. Make sure you use a variety of questions that will enable the learners to reason, questions that will enable the learners to research, and questions that will enable the learners to make decision. And give time to learners after you ask questions, because if you ask a question and you don't give them time, the tendency is for you to answer questions on behalf of the learners, and that's a greatest pitfall that as educators or as teachers we find ourselves in. When learners are not responding, we decide to respond on them. So this was meant to conscientize you. Make it a point that in your class, all the learners are given an opportunity to answer a question. You might have noticed in all my sessions, I will have different people answering to questions. I have your list, and by the end of these sessions, all of you would have responded, because I'm trying to obey that principle of saying, let all the learners be actively involved. So whenever we give you Google Classroom, please do them, because you might not know that the next one has to respond. And then whenever you are given answers by your learners, if they give you wrong answers, basically follow their line of thought. Remember, these require a lot and lots of time, and involve other learners in the discussion of in discussing the answers that have been given by other learners. Okay, are we together, guys? So you'll find these activities in the Google Classroom that I'm going to post this evening, and they are due on Monday, so that on Wednesday we start with all the activity. I want you now to basically respond to that question. What stood out for you in session 3? My time is up, guys. 2 minutes. Can you write what stood out for you in session 3? Session 3 is CTPS, that is critical thinking and problem solving. What stood out in this session? What are you taking home? Remember, appreciative inquiry. Also remember journaling. What stood out in this session? Meaning that what have you appreciated about this session, which you think you're going to implement in your classroom, or in your school, or in your partnership? And what are you going to put in your journal? What are you going to journal about this session? Let's just wait for the few responses, 3 or 2, and then close the session. Friday is saying let learners look at the problem in different angles. That is, let them consider different perspectives.
Yes, students are looking at things from
That's
different
to give
angles.
learners
Yo.
critical thinking. We need to ask them questions that are open, giving them chance to think, reason, and make decision. Encourage learners to think independently and work on their own. Thanks. There.
Porka also said the fact of looking at an issue in different angles. Like, for example, writing the 3.
Okay. Allow learners to scrutinize and understand the questions. To be critical thinkers. On the chat, Melanie? Anything on the chat?
Yeah, no, I read the one. There was one on the chat. I read that to you.
Oh, okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, because I am out of time now, thank you very much for attending the session and participating in the session. Let me hand over to Molly now. She wants to say something, okay? Simon, over to you, Molly.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say a very big thank you to Vuyo. Can we say hala hala to Vuyo? Hala hala to Vuyo.
Ala, Vuyo.
Done. Thank you for that session, especially session 3. That's so important, critical problem solving. And hala,
La, thank you.
and thank you to our audience. Vuyo, you must agree, our audience, they are brilliant and we really appreciate them. And most importantly, what we would really like to happen now is what will you take away? And the next time when we talk to you, what have you implemented? So it's about turning the theory into practice. That is, Vuyo, would you agree that is what we are looking forward to? Is about turning the theory into practice. How can I introduce digital literacy into the classroom? How can I make it practical for the students? We want the shift to happen. How can we make that shift happen? How can we encourage young people to think deeply and to make those differences? So that is all I want to say for now. And I'm sure you look forward to session 4, 5, and 6. I always like to end on a high. So can I play Jerusalem for our audience, Vuyo? With your permission, would you like to listen to Jerusalem? Is that okay with you?
That's fine with me.
Yeah. So everybody, you can put your, let me see everybody moving around. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.